Hello everyone. I've already posted a PDF file regarding college and career advice a few days back, but some of you have asked me to make a video presentation because that would be much more easier to follow. The content is basically the same, but since some of you asked me, I'm just making this video presentation. Maybe I'll try to add a few more points than what was discussed in the file. Okay, but essentially the major points will be the same. Okay, so what I was uh, focusing mostly on was like grades are not everything. Okay, uh, I also spoke of the importance of English. Okay, that also we'll discuss. Importance of resume building. Okay, how you go about planning your resume, how to create it and how to build it. Work backwards. Okay, people skills. Okay, general life skills, and about the need to be visible. Okay, how to self advertise and self promote your work. Seeking opportunities to grow. Okay, some tips on course and exam preparation, and some general not necessarily academic but general life tips, okay, just to make you a better person. And lastly, but probably the most important point, the importance of networking. Okay, uh, because ultimately that might uh, make the difference between a successful career and a not so successful career. Okay, so coming to grades, uh, I already mentioned this, like, don't be too obsessed with grades. Okay, you, most of you, because you're right now in second year, not very long back you were in school and in plus two, where the focus was mostly on marks, grades, ranks. Okay, so you passed an exam, some entrance exam, you came here, again the focus was on ranks. Okay, it made sense. Okay, it made sense for you to focus on grades and marks because for admissions that was required. Okay, because the qualifying criteria was based on ranks and marks, it made sense for you to focus on marks and grades. Okay, but once you got into engineering college, okay, your focus should not be solely on grades. Okay, grades are important. Okay, but that should not be your only focus. Okay, because at the end of 4 years you'll be looking for a job. Okay, now if you have different plans, like say for example you want to do higher studies like MTech, or you want to do an MS in abroad, or you want to prepare for uh, civil services. Okay, you want to write gate exam. Okay, you want to get a job in PSUs where again gate is a criteria. So for all those, grades do matter. Okay, they have their own entrance criteria, other criteria, but grades do matter in those areas. Okay, but if your prime focus is getting job after 4 years, okay, then grades are not that important. Okay, and again, you should take my words in the right perspective. I'm not saying grades don't matter at all. Okay, bad grades do matter. Okay, bad grades do matter. Okay, say you got 50, or low 50, low 50s, even 40s. Okay, those sort of scores will matter. Okay, it will have a very bad impact on your prospects. But once you're above that 60, 70 cutoff, because the way companies seek applications is they want to get applications from anyone. Okay, above that minimum cutoff, it could be 60 for other companies, it will be 70. Okay, once you're above that percentage minimum cutoff, everyone is same. Okay, companies don't care your grades beyond that point because they have their own assessment criteria. Okay, they have their own interview, they have their own technical rounds, their coding rounds. Okay, there everybody is same. Okay, your performance in those rounds will determine whether you get the job or not. Okay, so when you're focusing on grades, try to ask this question. Okay, what do companies care about? Okay, ultimately if you want, if they're paying you salary, right, and they want to give you a job, obviously you need to provide them with what they want, and what they want is not your grades. Okay, why do companies care about your grades? They have a job to do, they have some work, and they want to get it done. Okay, and what matters is whether the job is done well or not, whether you're capable of doing that job or not. And for that they're looking for certain skills. Okay, whether you have those skill sets or not is what matters to the company. Okay, and if in the past 3 4 years, if you see the recruitment trend, invariably, in most of the cases across all branches, you see the top student. I mean, when I say the top student, I mean the student with the highest grades, the best student, professors. thought very highly of him or her, okay, invariably, most of the cases, that person will not be the person who got the highest salary. It happens again and again and again, okay. And the student who you thought was average or just above average, I mean, nobody expected him or her to do well, is exactly the person who's getting the highest job offers, and it's happening repeatedly, okay. Okay, and don't forget this, okay. Grades alone is not going to get you good jobs. It might get you a job, okay, some jobs, so job, okay, but if you're really targeting some good paying job, your grades alone doesn't matter, okay. You need something more, okay. And the major focus of this talk will be on what are the skills are and how you develop those skills, okay. So again, as I said, what I'm saying is more applicable from a practical perspective of Indian middle class mentality, where you have to the pressure of getting a job after 4 years, okay, to earn a salary, okay. For those people, this is more applicable. If you are into areas where you're getting into higher studies, of course, do focus on your grades, okay. They do matter, okay. But for a company, what where does grades matter is getting you the first job, maybe a slightly higher paying job, but beyond that, it doesn't matter, okay. And in your groups, okay, you'll be getting messages when maybe in a third year or fourth year, companies will be posting applications. They'll be inviting applications for you to apply, okay. And they'll be looking like something similar like this, okay. They'll be calling everyone, not just B Tech, okay, M Tech, MCA, MSc, all streams, all branches. They don't care anything. All they matter is, all they care is whether you can do data structures, you can do programming, and the basic stuff about computer. That's all. Okay, they don't even care whether you're from a computer science background or not. Okay, because they know how to train those people. Okay, and as you know, maybe from your friends from other branches, everybody gets invited. People from EC, civil, mechanical, electrical, everybody gets invited for the same job. Okay, and that is a reality you have to accept with IT jobs. Okay, it's not something you have a prerogative of. Okay, people from other branches will be competing for the same jobs. Okay, okay, and I think just gave a reference of some movie. You can listen to the song, but what exactly that says is, okay, కాలేజ్లో మహారాజులు ఈ గేట్ దాటాక ప్రజలు అవుతారు. Okay, it's a very powerful line. Okay, people who are kings or queens in the college, inside the college gate, essentially it means the toppers. Once they cross the college gate, they're just ordinary people. Okay, the outside world will not care for your academic achievements. Okay, your scholarly achievements, your grades, your marks, people don't care. Okay, and we are seeing it. Okay, we are seeing it from our own experience. Okay, students who are getting very good marks are ending up getting mediocre jobs. It's not happening in all cases, I agree, but in many cases we are seeing this happening. Okay, there is no strict correlation, okay, between academic excellence and the salary people are getting. Okay, but so don't overemphasize, don't put overemphasis on grades. Okay, now if you get a grade of above 9, that is different. Okay, you can put it on your resume. That will be a added advantage, no doubt about it. But most of you will not be getting grade above 9. Okay, you'll be in 7 or 8. Okay, then you have to ask the question whether it's worth spending that much extra effort to get 9. Okay, as semesters progress, it will be getting more and more difficult for you to, if you're already behind, if you're already in 7 or low 8s, around below 8.5, below 8.4, like that. As 2 to 3 semesters go by, it will be becoming even more difficult for you to get 9. Okay, because already your average has accumulated. Okay, in the remaining semesters to get to 90 means it's going to be very difficult. Then you have to ask the question whether it's worth it going for it. Okay, but if you're already on a good grade, if you're confident of ending up at 9 plus, then okay, on your resume it does add weight. Okay, but for majority of the people, it will be very difficult to get a grade of 9 plus. Okay, so instead of that, focus more on the real life skills that companies value. Okay, and this is a graph which shows what happens in the real life. Okay, as time goes by, okay, the people, the amount of people who care about your grades will keep on decreasing. Okay, after graduation especially, literally nobody will care for it. Okay, so stop being a school kid or a college kid. Okay, obsessively. Okay, I keep hearing people asking what is my marks or what is the grade? Can I get more marks in this? Okay, don't be so obsessive about marks. Okay, you're ultimately going to do fine. Okay, you're not going to fail in this course or any other course for that matter. Okay, you will do well. Okay, so don't squabble for that 1 or 2 extra marks. Okay, the grades are not at all important in a real life setting, right? Then I'll be telling you what are the things you should focus on, but also keep in mind that don't take my words as gospel truth. Okay, this is ultimately your career. Okay, and when you're taking advice on career, you should consult a number of other people. Okay, my perspective is totally different. Okay, you should be speaking to at least 5 to 10 other people. Okay, maybe your seniors, faculty, professors, senior professors, junior professors. Okay, people from the industry, your well wishers, family, friends, everybody. Okay, and then come at a considered opinion. Don't rely on advice of any one particular person, especially in matters relating to advice on career. Okay, because the perspectives will change. Okay, and people have a different relation with the industry. Some are close to the industry, they know what exactly the industry looking for. Some are a bit distant from the industry. Okay, maybe some of your teaching faculty are more into academic life than being in touch with the industry. Okay, so you have to take all sort of opinions and come, you yourself should decide what is best for you. Okay, so I'll be sharing some advice, but that is my perspective. Okay, but don't rely entirely on that. Okay, make sure you take the advice of many other people around you. Okay, now first of all, I will put English skills as a very important skill. Okay, maybe not the most important skill. Okay, your technical skills do matter, the programming skills or the respective area which you are working on, that is important, no doubt about it. But apart from that, your English skills are going to be very very important. Okay, and when I speak English skills, I refer both to written English and spoken English both. Okay, so most of you are, from whatever I have observed with the limited interaction I had with you, I see that most of you are coming from a sort of a rural semi-urban background. Okay, where the local language is more dominant. Okay, uh, nothing wrong in it. Okay, that's the way we grew up. Okay, nothing wrong with it. Okay, but when it comes to job interviews and subsequent your subsequent progress in careers, English is going to be very important. Okay, in your job interviews, your technical skills will play a role. Okay, but I mean, technical skills means for students it will be more related to grades and all, maybe a 20% weightage. Okay, then companies will be having their own assessment. They will be conducting their own coding rounds and technical rounds. They'll be carrying maybe 40% weightage, and then communication skills will carry 30% weightage. It's massive. Okay, it's huge weightage. Okay, in the interview round especially, what they're really testing you is your communication skills. People have a misconception that in the interview rounds, the interviewer is actually testing you on your technical skills, your programming knowledge. No, that's not the point. The questions may be related to programming or technical questions. Okay, but that's already tested in the earlier rounds. Okay, again they won't test you for those skills in the interview. The purpose of interview is different. Okay, the purpose of interview is to test your communication skills. Okay, they'll be giving you a question and ask you to explain. Okay, and I know a number of students who know the answer. They'll come out of the interview and tell me, I know that answer. Okay, but they can't explain it. Okay, they tell to the interviewer, okay, I know this answer, can I write it? And the interviewer and the person who is doing the interview will say, no, don't write it, you explain me. Because the interviewer knows this person knows the answer. Okay, it's not the question of whether you know the answer or not. Okay, whether you can articulate what's in your head. Okay, on the spot, if there are some thoughts in your head, you should be able to put it into words and communicate. That is communication. Okay, there's no point in preparing beforehand and mugging up and just telling it. Okay, on the spot, if you have an idea, whatever is in your head, you should be able to put it into words. Okay, that is communication skills. And if you can't do that, it's going to be very difficult in interviews. Okay, so and there's a reason why people are doing this. Okay, companies, it's not that English is a great language or everybody should know it, but there's a reason for this. Okay, especially in the IT industry. Okay, you have to interact with clients. Okay, ultimately you're going to develop IT solutions, programs, okay, applications for customers. and you're going to be having a lot of interaction with the customers, because the customer will be telling you what are his requirements, okay, and any modifications, what is to be modified, it's entirely up to the customer. Okay, even at an entry level, if they don't allow you to interact with the customer directly, okay, you have to be present in the, you have to interact with your own team members, your team leader, okay, and there'll be everyday meetings, okay. In IT industry, team meetings will be held periodically every day to monitor the progress, because it is money at stake, okay. A project for an IT company is money at stake, okay. They will be having constant monitoring, and you have to be present at meetings every day. That is how IT industry works, or for that matter any industry where a customer interaction and deadlines are there, it will be happening, okay. And then if you cannot communicate, okay, and remember, in IT industry, the clients are usually foreign clients, okay, and your co-employees, okay, your other employees mostly will be, there'll be a lot of diversity, they'll be coming from across the country, okay, they'll be coming from all parts of the country, okay. They don't know your language, maybe some will, but the common language is English, okay. In that meeting room, majority of the people will not know your language, okay. And that's why you need a common language, and there's nothing wrong in the company expecting you to know good English, because if you can't, if you can't communicate with your team, okay, how the project is going to be slowed down, there's no question about it, okay. And for this you have to talk with people who have worked or who are currently working in the IT industry. That's the way how the industry works, okay. There'll be everyday meetings, there'll be interaction with the clients. Once you have an experience of 1 or 2 years, you'll be moved to a position where you'll be interacting with the clients, and English is a must, okay. Now I'm not a big fan of the language, okay. I don't want to promote that language, but it's a reality, it's a reality that you have to be good at English, because that's what the companies want you to be, okay. So I know most of you, with your background, okay, a sort of semi-urban background, will be finding it difficult to converse effectively in English, okay. That's not a crime, okay. There's nothing wrong with that, okay. That's the way people grew up in, depends on the background in which they had their schooling, okay, the neighborhood they grew. I don't have any problem with that, okay. But you have to realize that that's going to be a problem for you in future, okay. And what you have to do is, okay, you have to talk speaking in English, okay. Now this problem with English, or even for that matter your deficiency in coding skills or your programming skills, you can sometimes get away with it and get a job, okay. IT industry is a cyclical industry, okay. Sometimes there'll be a huge demand for one particular skill, okay, because maybe the technology is new, okay, or maybe it's just that that particular industry, say for example telecom industry, or also some particular industry has a demand for one particular sort of skill, and immediately there'll be huge demand in that cycle. When there is a uptrend in that particular cycle, there'll be a lot of demand for the jobs. In that boom, you can get away with it. Sometimes it happens that even if you don't have the required skills, or if you're a bit deficient in your technical skills, or even in English skills, you can get the job. That depends on the demand, okay. But once you get into the industry, okay, then you will be facing problem, okay, because just a cycle, that boom will not last long. Once there's a demand, there'll be a number of students will be learning that particular course, not just in universities, in private coaching institution or computer institution. Again, the supply will be more, okay. And once the supply is more, again the salaries will come down, and then people will be moving on to another set of technological skills, okay. This happens very frequently in IT industry, okay. So you might get away with it if you are lucky, okay, depending on the cycle the industry is in, okay. But don't forget, once you get in there, attrition is very common in IT industry. By attrition I mean the the pace at which people leave the companies, and it's very common in IT industry. People don't stick in IT industry for long, okay. It's very common that they work for maybe 3 to 4 years and just move on. It could be either because they have a better job offer at some other company, or maybe they want to move to a different role, okay. It could be a different industry altogether, okay. It could be an abroad opportunity, okay. People do this all the time, okay. It's very common in IT industry, and attrition rates of up to 30% or not. We have seen companies like Cognizant where they have even attrition rate of up to 30%, okay. That's very common in the industry. So don't assume that once you get in there, you're going to stay there forever, okay. That used to be the case with government jobs, okay. Once you join a job, you'll be staying there till retirement. It's not going to happen in private sector. Okay, definitely, if you stay there for long, you'll be getting stagnated. Okay, and they'll come a time when they will retrench you because your skills get outdated. Okay, IT industry is a very dynamic industry. Okay, new technologies keep coming up and you have to keep updated yourself. Okay, if you stay in the company for too long working in the same role in the same technology, you get outdated, and that's why people leave jobs. Okay, people leave jobs because they learn new skills and they just move on. Okay, so if you are deficient in English or in some particular technology skills, you can still get a job, entry level job, some basic salary. Okay, 3 lakhs package or 3.5 lakh package you can get in. Okay, a lot of companies take recruit students in bulk. You might think you got a job. Okay, but they're not going to keep you for long. Okay, just remember that it's not that you got a job and they're going to keep you. Okay, you will be the first person to be removed if you get into industry with such deficient skills. Okay, and that's why you should have a strong background in both technical and English skills. Okay, so don't forget that. Okay, so how do you improve your English skills? Okay, that now there are a number of ways for it. Okay, obvious, the most easiest way is to start talking in English with maybe your close circle friends. Okay, that will be very awkward for you in the beginning. I agree. I mean, the people who you talk on a daily basis, you keep talking in Telugu and suddenly you want to switch out to English. That will be a bit awkward. Okay, but they are that's the best opportunity. Okay, these are the friends who are close to you, whom you interact with you daily. So that should be a ideal place to start. Okay, and if you're uh, a bit shy at doing that, okay, at least you can start watching some English, or maybe sitcoms and all. You can do that. Okay, but at some stage you have to start moving into actual actually talking in English. Okay, now the university will have some courses because it recognizes the importance of this particular aspect. Okay, there'll be opportunities for you to take up some. I mean, you have to give some seminars or some uh, public talks, and there's a soft skills lab. Okay, some English courses. Now, uh, I can tell you that usually students treat them as a free period. They won't be taken seriously, and sometimes even from the university side, they're not that serious. Okay, so you should understand that in this university system, okay, you're on your own. Okay, yes, they provide some guidance and help like this soft skills lab and all, but you're basically on your own. Okay, nobody's going to help you. Okay, uh, again, a reference from a Telugu film song. Okay, and just excuse me if I'm using so much references to Telugu film songs because we have some great lyric writers in the industry. So uh, one more line, beautiful line, like ఎవరు వస్తారని ఏదో చేస్తారని ఎదురు చూసి మోసపోకుమా. Like, don't fool yourself into thinking that somebody will come and somebody will help you. That's not going to happen. Okay, in real life, that sort of thing is not going to happen. Okay, maybe one or two times somebody will help you, but you're basically on your own. Okay, so you're expecting the university to train you in English. Okay, provide you with the these sort of courses, skill labs and all, and you're expected too much. Okay, it's basically up to you how you train yourself up. Okay, and for that you have to seek out the help of your seniors or your well wishers, and you should somehow find a way to improve your English. Okay, I'm telling you that's going to be your biggest challenge, more than your technical skills. Okay, in you have cleared an entrance exam to come here. Okay, okay, people may vary in terms of how academically proficient you are. Okay, some are good, some are excellent. Okay, but by and large, you'll be able to clear the technical rounds. It will not be too difficult for you. Now there will be some difficult coding challenges and all, but you won't do too badly. Okay, I know because you have cleared an exam, a tough exam to come here. Okay, so you have a basic level of aptitude. You can do well in the your all your courses, your subjects. You'll clear the subjects. Ultimately, you will be even clearing the technical and coding rounds. But I'm telling you, the problem you're really going to face is in your English skills. Okay, and don't take it lightly. Okay, it might surprise you that I'm keeping these two at the same level. Okay, I'm giving equal importance to technical, your engineering, computer science skills, and English skills. Okay, even if they're not important, the difference is not very high. Okay, maybe your technical skills may be like 60 to 70% important. English will be 30% important, and 30% is not a small number. Okay, that might determine the that will ultimately make the difference between you getting a job or not. Okay, so don't take it lightly. Okay, and uh, try talking to your friends. Okay, that should be the easiest way. But at least if not, okay, at least if not, try at least watching some English sitcoms, or so that you get used to the language, nothing else. Okay. Then again, I told you, why should you be doing this? Because you should be thinking from the perspective of the employer. Okay. And the employer, for him or her, it requires you to be in good English, because from the from interacting to the clients to even from your within your project team members, you need to interact in English only, and that's the requirement. Okay, so that is the compulsion they have, and you have to respect it because they're paying you. Okay. Then coming to the next skill, resume building. Okay. uh, Usually I see people, one day before the interview they start preparing the resume. Okay, and this is standard resume. They prepare like all their education qualifications, the marks they got, maybe some awards or achievements and extracurricular activities. Okay. uh, Really, that's not the way how you prepare a resume. Okay, frankly, I mean, I'm really, when I see resumes final year students make, I really don't know who's guiding them. Okay, to be frank, I really don't like the resumes they prepare. Okay, and that's not the how resumes are prepared. Okay, okay, companies really don't care about what the marks you got or what the achievements. Okay, you should understand, again, you should think from the perspective of the company. When they're asking a resume, what are they looking for? Okay, they're not interested in where you did your schooling. Okay, in which city you got, what marks you got in a 10th class. Okay. Okay, you write the basic information, but people tend to elaborate resume into 3 to 4 pages. Okay, and nobody is interested in reading 3 to 4 pages of your resume. Okay, resume should be just 1 page. Okay, nothing more than that. Okay, you might ask you, how can I fit all my education qualifications, the courses I took, the marks I got all in 1 page. Okay, pe- the people who look into your resume will not have even time to more than 10 to 15 seconds to go through your resume. And you think writing 3 to 4 pages they're going to go through, you're just living in a different world. You're just not understanding the realities of recruiting. Okay. And for all this, you have to interact with someone from the industry. Okay, people don't spend minutes reading each and every word of your resume. Okay, they just, so what are they looking at? They're looking at a match. Okay, they are looking at the match of your skill sets with the job profile. That's all what company care for, nothing else. Okay, so company come to you with a job offer. They have a job in hand, and the job has some required skill sets. Okay, say for example in artificial intelligence they have some jobs, and they have a specific set of requirements. They want you to be, say, proficient in Python language, machine learning, all the techniques, maybe regression or base and support vector machines. Okay, decision tree, some techniques they want. Okay, a programming language. Okay, maybe a one or two operating system, maybe some experience in cloud computing. Okay, those are the skills they want, and they want to see whether you have those skills or not. That is the only thing they match. Now everything beyond that, these grades and all, okay, the marks, everything, maybe for general information, that's okay. But bulk of your resume, the focus should be on the skill sets, and you should try to match it with the job application, and that is where resumes fail. Okay, so now with I can't say this to third year or fourth year students because they don't have the time. Okay, but because you're in second year, you have a lot of time. You can prepare your resumes accordingly. Okay, the way you have to prepare the resumes, you have to start from backwards. Okay, you have more than 2 years and you have a lot of time to do this, and that's why you should be from right now. Right now, you have to be focused on doing that. Okay, you have to start building the resume from backwards, not one day before. Okay, one day before applying for the job, you take out your common template. Okay, people have this common template shared across friends. Okay, this is copy paste, and that's not going to work. Okay, each resume has to be different, and even for a person, each resume for a different job application has to be different. People just take printouts and distribute to companies as if it's like chocolates. Okay, that's very bad practice. Okay, your resume should be customized to the company you're applying for the job you're applying. Okay, your resume, you should be having 10 different resumes if you're applying to 10 different companies for 10 different roles. Okay, your resume should be tailored accordingly. Okay, and how are you going to build that resume? Because you have time. Okay, so this is what you have to do. You have to build the resume backwards. Okay. Okay, so what basically the mistake students do is, they've been going through all their courses. Okay, in their 4 years of engineering, they do go through all the courses what university suggests. Okay, as per requirement, they do all the courses, and one fine day they sit down to write the resume. They'll be listing all their academic history and all, where they did the 10th and plus 2 and all this, and the courses they did in the engineering college, maybe the most important courses, the grades they got there. Okay, a couple of references from the professors. Okay, so that is focused on backwards. Okay, so what you did in the past. Okay, and now you're trying to justify that what you did in the past, okay, is a match for what you're applying. Okay, now most of the time that's not going to work because the skills which you have are old, maybe a couple of years back. Okay, and in university skills are now contemporary. Okay, they are a bit outdated. Okay, so the way you should work is you should build your resume backwards. By that, what I mean is you should now have a resume right now. Okay, maybe after 2 years you're going to apply for the job, but right now you have to have a resume already. And what is that resume? You didn't complete your engineering, you didn't complete your school, your courses. So what is that resume going to contain? It should contain the ultimate final product, what you want your resume to look like after 4 years. Okay, but you don't have an application, you don't have a job application. I just now told you that your resume should be tailored to a particular job. So what job are you going to apply? Okay, so now you have to recognize an area or a couple of areas where most likely your interest lies. Now this is going to be difficult for you in second year because you didn't take on many courses you had to take. Maybe in third year you'll be having a rough idea of all the major areas of computer science. Maybe then you'll have a more appropriate idea as to which direction you want to go. But even now, even in second year, okay, when you're taking a couple of courses, I mean, you can sense the sort of person you are. Okay, and this is why in my pre-course survey, I always ask this question: whether you're a software person or whether you're a hardware person. Okay, maybe it's too early for you to, and most of the answers I get is I don't know, I'm not yet decided. But as you keep doing courses, you start liking some courses. Okay, okay, and maybe you are a hardware person basically, or maybe you're a software person. Okay, and even in software, maybe you start liking some courses. You really start enjoying working with data. Okay, like databases and all, analyzing data. Okay, you enjoy working with Excel, analyzing. Okay, finding the patterns and trends. Maybe you're that sort of person. Okay, that's a hint that you are into more into you'll be successful more into areas like machine learning and artificial intelligence. Okay, that sort of stuff. Okay, or maybe you are someone who likes networking. Okay, you can identify by the courses which courses you like. Okay, so it's too, I know it's early. Okay, but still already you should be having a decent idea of the subjects, at least till the subjects you have taken till now, the subjects I won't say you're passionate about, but at least subjects you like. And there you have to make a distinction between the subjects you like, and you should understand why you're liking a particular subject. Not you should not like a subject because it's easy, because you got good marks, or because you like that instructor, or those are not the reasons. You should genuinely be interested in the subject. Okay, you should identify such subjects, or at least you can sit down and talk with someone senior to you. Okay, maybe some faculty, and they can easily identify. Okay, if you talk to a person maybe 15 to 20 minutes, you can easily get a sense of what that person is. Okay, what is the area they're interested, and then what I'm suggesting is now that can change. Okay, as you take new courses, your interest, maybe you'll realize that you're interested in a different area. That's perfectly fine. Okay, but for the moment, at least try to get a broad idea of the direction in which you want to go. Okay, and then what you have to do, okay, you have to search for, say for example, the latest job postings, I would say in the last at least 3 months. Okay, and you have to search for, say, I can say LinkedIn is a good choice, or maybe you can just go for Google search and search for that particular a job requirement. Say for example, you're interested in, let's say for example, SQL. Okay, so SQL stands for Structure Query Language. It's a very popular in-demand skill. You're going to learn about in your DBMS course. That's your database management system course in your second year second semester. Okay, earlier it used to be in third year first semester, but now it's moved to second year second semester. Say for example, you took that course and you found that you are enjoying working with databases, SQL. Okay, so SQL is a sort of language, not a programming language, but a language to retrieve data from databases. Okay, uh, finding trends and patterns, a very powerful language. Now, if you're working on that course and you found this to be interesting, okay, you get an idea that okay, I want a job in this area. So what you should do is then you should search for SQL jobs usually, and I strongly recommend from top companies. Now there'll be a number of job postings in SQL from small companies to medium companies, Indian companies, but go for the top companies in the world. Okay, when I say top companies, it could be Google, it could be Microsoft, Amazon, those sort of companies. Okay, you just go for, just search for that. Okay, like SQL job postings, Google, SQL job postings, Microsoft. Okay, you just search for them, and you'll get some job postings. Okay, or maybe you can even go to the website of the company, and every company will be having a career section there where they'll be listing the current job openings. Say for example, you went to Google careers, and there you search for SQL job postings, and you got this some results. Okay, because SQL is a very in-demand skill, you'll be finding jobs across almost all companies. Okay, say for example, you have a sample job posting there, and make sure these are not very old. That's very important. Okay, these job postings should be more recent, maybe in the last 3 to 4 months, because the skills get outdated very quickly. Okay, so just make sure that you're searching for the relatively recent job postings. Okay, then maybe what you should do is you should highlight the in this particular SQL, there'll be number of skills they'll be asking, but with respect to SQL, because you're searching for SQL, just look at that line which asks for SQL skill. In this example, for example, they're asking experience in writing SQL queries, including creating and maintaining tables. Or you go to some other job posting. Okay, data analysis, coding, engineering, and SQL queries. Okay, again, retrieving data from relational databases. Okay, this is a for university graduates, okay, without prior experience. They're asking project coursework using large data systems on SQL. So you start identifying this is a job posting from Instagram. Okay, they're asking knowledge of SQL. Okay, so you just first of all identify with with respect to the particular skill you're focusing on, SQL in this example, the key skills company are asking for. Okay, and then in the job postings you also look for allied skills they're asking. Okay, besides the core SQL skills, what are the other related skills they're asking? In the examples we have considered, if you see, they're asking besides the SQL skills, they're asking for data analysis, internet technologies, operating system, that is Unix skills, data visualization, very important. Most probably in Tableau they must be asking. Okay, Tableau is a very popular software for data visualization. Machine learning they're asking. Okay, so try to see what are the other skills besides the core skills they're asking. Okay, and then thirdly, look at the common traits. So this will be mostly your soft skills. So what is they're asking besides the technical skills? Okay, so under technical you see the core skills. In this example, the skill skills. You also look for the allied skills. By allied skills I mean besides the core skills, what are the other technical skills they prefer? Okay, and then thirdly, the soft skills. Okay, so in the examples, the postings which I've shown you, they're asking for, almost everybody is asking ability to write and speak in English fluently. Okay, strong communication skills. Okay, interpersonal skills, presentation skills are very important, don't neglect that. Okay, your ability to make a presentation, to stand up in front of a decent sized crowd. Okay, and then make a presentation. Okay, is going to be a very important skill. Okay, you have to keep doing this every time. Okay, almost on a weekly basis, presentations are going to be a very important in corporate setup. Okay, so they're asking even that. Okay, so you should at least for 25 such postings you have to do this, and don't forget to search for recent job postings, not older than 3 months. Okay, once you collect 25 such 20 to 25 such job postings, you'll get a very fair idea, a very decent idea in your particular area of interest, what are the skills the top companies are looking in demand right now? Okay, current skills that are valuing. Okay, you should also make use of LinkedIn. Okay, if you haven't heard of LinkedIn right now, it's okay, but try to open an account there. Okay, so it's mostly for professional networking. I'll talk about the importance of networking later, but that's very important. LinkedIn is a very important, especially for professional networking, is very important. Okay, okay, so this is a LinkedIn site, and there also you get a lot of job postings here. You can, I think, in SQL, this is SQL jobs in India. Big companies like Genpact, Ernst and Young, Accenture is there. Okay, so that's the first thing you have to do. You have to search for applications, job postings in the area which you want to work on. Okay, and identify the key skills they are looking for. Okay, second thing, look for resumes of employees already working in such areas. Okay, so there'll be employees who are already working in the field of SQL in these top companies or fairly decent companies. Okay, so where do you get that information? LinkedIn. Again, perfect choice for this. Okay, because it's a professional networking site. If you want to find employees working in a particular company, this is the place to find. Okay, then you start finding their resumes. Okay, so what are the skills because they'll be updating the skills. Okay, people won't stay stagnant. People who are ambitious and people who do well in corporate setups will not stay idle. They'll be updating the skills. You watch out for their resumes also. Okay, then after that you search for resumes for good IT students. Okay, at least 10. Okay, good resumes. Okay, this need not be necessarily in the area which you're interested. I'm not saying search for students who are interested in databases or SQL. Okay, go for general resumes. Okay, okay, maybe here I have given some sample like this. You can search. Okay, you can just search for IT students, some IIT. Okay, so there's for example, there's a list of students at IIT Kharagpur in the CSE department. Go to that. Okay, then search for a couple of good resumes. Okay, when you see resumes, you can understand. Okay, now you might be once you go through these resumes, okay, you might feel a bit inferior. Okay, don't, it's okay. Okay, usually there will be toppers. Okay, toppers in JE, IT JE exam, and okay, high grade points. Okay, they'll be having excellence in various besides academics and extracurricular activities, sports, and okay, so you might feel inferior that why should I should even be comparing with them. Okay, so the point here is you're not comparing with them. Okay, you're just studying the resume. Okay, because these are the resumes that ultimately are getting people for top jobs. Okay, and you should know to build a resume how a winning resume. Okay, they are winning resumes and they're losing resumes. Okay, and you should study winning resumes to see how they're presenting at least. Okay, now you're not going to replicate their resume. Okay, there are a lot of things which you'll be behind them. That's the reality. Accept it. Okay, but at least things where you can work on. Okay, you should start identifying. Okay, so just see what they're doing at the resumes. Okay, ultimately what you're doing now, you're preparing a resume right now that you want to look like after 2 years. Okay, and then you're going to work backward. Okay, and try to develop those skills. Okay, so in the process you also look at this some good resumes and just see the things that they're common. Okay, the things they're standing out. Okay, and then try to identify. Okay, so for example, in all these, okay, uh, usually these students will be having good GPA. Okay, they list some important courses and scholastic achievements like their competition scholarships. Okay, internships in companies, maybe the summer projects. Okay, the projects they have done in college, desk projects or research papers, the programming languages they know, the software tools they know. Okay, conferences, workshops they attended. Okay, some leadership roles, extracurricular activities, and then you should try to, once you read these sort of things. Okay, next you should try to prepare a resume. Okay, assuming 2 years from now how you want your resume to look like. There you'll be listing under your core skills. Okay, your SQL skills. Okay, your soft skills. Okay, and all this whatever you're picking from good resumes like IT resumes. Okay, and then you should start building it. Okay, the way you build it, for example, you should map it with the job posting. For example, the key and allies, you want to develop a resume, and I told you resumes have to be specific to the application, the particular job posting you're making. Don't prepare a common resume. Okay, and start distributing to every company. For a specific job application, for a specific job posting, your resume has to be unique, should be different. Okay, because the skills you highlight there are going to be entirely different to another job application. Okay, so say for example, this is a job application for SQL. This is your area of interest. Okay, you start writing a resume, preparing a resume, keeping this point in mind. Okay, so there, say for example, the key skills asked in the job posting, you have to map it. Okay, try to copy whatever is there in a job application. Just try to put the exact words. So your resume can contain the words like expertise in writing. These are your strengths. Okay, you can write expertise in writing SQL queries and retrieving data from relation database. These statements, these are exactly what we have picked up from the job postings we have seen earlier from top companies. Okay, then say for example, under soft skills. Okay, whatever companies are looking for, good presentation skills. Okay, interpersonal skills, all this. Then in scholastic achievements, say for example, what do you want your resume to look like 2 years from now? Okay, GPS so and so. Don't be over ambitious. Okay, Yes, you want to see your resume to be 9.9 plus, okay, but don't write that. Be realistic, okay. You know what sort of a student you are, okay. You know the university setup here. Already have written 2 semester exams. You know what is your GPA, okay. You have a fairly decent idea of what your GPA is going to look like, okay. It's not going to be it's not going to improve drastically, okay. So roughly it's around to be at the same level, okay. So write that, okay. Okay, if you want, you can increase maybe a point 2, point 3 points, but not beyond that. Okay, don't be very ambitious. Okay, if you got say for example 7.5 till now, be realistic and put 8 or 8.25. Okay, that is the maximum you can push yourself. You don't put 9 and okay, don't overcome it yourself. That's not going to happen. Okay, so say for example you can, if you're a good student, you can write I topped the class in first semester, or in a particular course, for example in SQL, in DBMS. If you have done well, you can also write that, no problem. Okay, I topped the DBMS course. Okay, once you put it, then you have to start working for that. Okay, so you are working backwards. Okay, then course is relevant to your area of interest, because the SQL job posting will be listing all uh, the the courses will be relevant in this particular area, like databases, DBMS, data structures, with data. Those will be writing. Then internships. You have not done internship right now. Okay, that I know. But we are building a resume 2 years from now. Okay. How do you want your resume to look like 2 years from now? Okay. 2 years from now, when you're the company who's interviewing you, when they see the resume, what will they want? What would they want to look under internships? So okay, if you have done an internship in this particular area in SQL, okay, that will be a positive point for them. Okay, so they know, okay, this person has already worked in this area, maybe for internship, not a full job, full-time job, but still has working experience in a real life company in an internship project. Okay, so that will be, he'll be a useful person for us. Okay, so that is how the person doing the interview 2 years from now should feel when they read something under internship for you. So what you can write here: 2 month internship at Tech Mahindra. Worked on large scale data mining. So you're again linking that word data, because your job posting is related to data extraction, okay, and databases. Okay, you're putting the words there. Again, projects in college. Again, you talk with the professors or talk with your seniors and try to see what projects will be more suited to getting SQL jobs. Okay, and try putting 1 or 2 projects like that. Okay, research papers. If you have good rapport with some professors, you can talk with them whether you can get on maybe 2 to 3 months. You can work on a research project. Okay, and try to write and see if you write this statement in your resume: published research paper so and so and so and so journal. Okay, under the supervision of so and so professor. It will add so much weight. It will really be, I mean, compared to all other courses you take, all the grades you get, okay, this single line will add a lot of weightage to you. Okay, if you have published a research paper, that's not a small thing. Okay, and they are graduate students, BTech level students who are doing that. Okay, and once on your resume, 2 years from now, if you put that on your resume, published a research paper in so and so journal, okay, that's going to take your resume to another level. Okay, so now we are preparing a resume now. Okay, and writing this line. Okay, 2 years from now, if you want that on your resume, published a paper so and so. Right now, you have to start. Okay, you have to identify the process you want to work with, the research area you want to work with, the maybe the journal you want to publish. Everything has to be decided maybe 6 months or 1 year back, and you start working from them. Okay, and that's what we are doing here. Okay, we are preparing the resume we want to look like 2 years from now, and we are trying to develop the skills or try to fill the gaps and start working from now on. Okay, that's what you should do. Programming languages. Okay, so all the resumes which I've seen from the top very good IT students, they have just take care of all those languages: C, C++, Java, Python, JavaScript, SQL. Most of the languages they'll be teaching in the university as part of the curriculum, so you can put them. But JavaScript, I don't think so anybody will be teaching you. Okay, so JavaScript you should learn on your own. Okay, in fact, what is the most popular language in the world? You try searching on the web. What is the most popular programming language? It's JavaScript. All your front end web applications, and even today, the backend also. Okay, using maybe Node.js and Express and all, they're using JavaScript. JavaScript is today used both for backend and front end. Okay, it's the number one programming language in the world, and they're not teaching in the industry, in the university. Okay, you have to learn on your own. Okay, so these sort of things do happen. Okay, the disconnect between uh, what is in actual demand in the industry and what is taught in the university, that's going to always exist in some form or the other. You have to find ways to overcome that. Okay. Then software tools. Okay. Software tools is very important. Software tools nobody will teach in the university. They might teach you programming languages, but they will not teach you software tools. In the industry you need lot of tools. Okay. For example, Git you have to learn on your own. Okay. Docker is for containerization. Docker and Kubernetes. Okay. Visual Studio, TensorFlow, PyTorch, all of these are machine learning libraries, and none of these they will be teaching in the industry. This is not a part of the core curriculum. Okay. These you have to learn on your own. Okay. These are not languages, these are tools. Okay. And they are very powerful tools. Okay. So you should see the resumes of good students, top students at good institutes. See what are the tools they're putting on the resumes, and should try at least few of them you should put on your resume. Okay. Very important. Okay. Knowledge, just programming knowledge is not sufficient. These tools are very important. If you go to software industry, IT industry, without knowledge of Git, okay, Git stands, that is the version control. Okay. Version control is absolutely critical. Okay. Without version control and systems like Git, you are not going to work on any job. Take my word for it. Okay. Without knowledge of Git, if you try to enter the industry, they'll kick you out. Okay. It is basically a version control. Okay. Which means there will be a lot of modifications in software. Okay. You start working, even for the programs you write, there'll be a lot of modifications. You write some code. Okay. And then some modification will come, you add a new feature. Okay. So how are you going to update that new feature? Okay. Are you going to throw away that old version, or you're going to keep it and uh, make a new copy of the new one? Or so that will be very, it will take a lot of space, it will take a lot of time also. Okay. So version control means it will just track the change, the single change you have made. Say for example, in a the code of 1000 lines, you have made change to only one single line. Okay. Version control will help you keep track of that one single line. It will not save that entire file. Okay. It will be very useful for you. Okay. And it's a very in demand, and there are no jobs for it. It's not like Git is a separate job skill, they won't have jobs for it, but it's required in every job. Okay. So these are the tools you have to learn. Okay. Git is very important. Containerization is picking up like anything, is very important. Okay. Docker and Kubernetes are important. Okay. Cloud computing, I'll talk about it later, it's absolutely critical now. Okay. So these are the tools you have to learn, very important. Okay. Then conferences and workshop, you didn't till now attend any conference or workshop, but if you put it on your resume, it's going to have a very good weight. Okay. Not as much as a research paper, but a good conference, if you have attended a good conference, is also going to add a bit. So just put it as a target. Just put it as a target, like I have attended Microsoft Student Partner Conference 2022. You're writing somewhere in the future. Okay. Just put a target and try attending it. Okay. Whether you actually attend it or not depends on the many constraints. Okay. But this is just a sample resume. Try to put the target. Okay. Then leadership roles take up. Okay. In all the good resumes you'll see, besides the academic achievements, they will list these leadership skills or your soft skills. Okay. What it tells to the interviewer is that you're having a well-rounded personality. Okay. You're not just a student who focuses only on this college stuff, but you have a well-rounded personality. You're into many areas. Like, you need not be an out and out extrovert person. That's not required, but at least you should be having interest in various spheres. Okay. And that's why I'll also be speaking later about the importance for you to grow personally. Okay. Seek out opportunities in many other areas that are available in the university. Okay. That we'll be discussing later. But for leadership roles, you can put a target like this. Say for example, uh, I was the organizing secretary for Andhra University Technical Festival 2022. You just put some target. Okay. And you can start working on it. Okay. Then extracurricular activities. Okay. You might say, I'm applying for a job, or my technical skills are important. What does extracurricular activities have to do with it? That's correct. Okay. That's not going to determine whether you get the job or not. But between two resumes who are almost exactly the same, almost similar grades, almost similar performance in the interview. Okay. Usually companies will prefer the person who has a uh, besides academics, who is also good at some other like extracurricular activities. It could be your leadership skills. It could be uh, something related outside of academics. Okay. That's how companies work. Okay. Companies want people who are into because it will be reflecting on your personality. People who are good at multiple things besides academics. who's a good leader, also good communicator, okay, who's good at presentation, okay, they'll be adding value to your resume, okay. So just try to put a couple of extracurricular activities, okay, which you think you can do, okay. It could be anything. It's not related to academics. Say for example, you can say I have taken a 6 months course in Indian vocals. Now you might ask, what does taking a course in singing or dancing has to do with getting me a job? But again, as I told, it's a reflection on the sort of person you are. Okay, whether you're restricting yourself to one particular academic circle, or you're having a wide range of interests. Okay, that is a reflection of personality, and companies want to take people who have a wide variety of interests. Okay, then couple of references you can put. Okay, then based on whatever table you have prepared, you start preparing the resume. You can take reference format, uh, some good resumes. Okay, and in this format, any format, just prepare your resume. Okay, and put under the resume all what you have discussed under this table. Okay, in the respective sections. That will be your resume. That is the resume you want 2 years from now. Okay, and now you have to start working towards fulfilling that. Every word what you have written in that resume, 2 years from now, you have time 2 years. Okay, 2 years from now, you have to fulfill everything. Okay, of course, you have to understand that IT industry is very dynamic. Okay, the skills will be changing. Okay, you have taken the skills based on job postings of some recent or 3 months old job postings. But 2 years from now, new skills are going to be required. Okay, so this is a very dynamic field. You have to keep updating this resume. Okay, excuse me. You have to keep developing new skills. Okay, so your resume gets updated. But by and large, it will be this. Okay, at least the core skills. Okay, they'll be same. Okay, and now you have to start working on the gaps. Okay, so that is how you start building your resume backwards. Okay, then that is as far as the technical skills are concerned. How about people skills? Okay, they're not really skills, but okay, couple of points I just want to share with you. Like, don't be afraid to say no. Okay, on many occasions you'll be just as, I mean, you'll be sort of shy of saying no because you might offend the other person. Okay, you should learn how to draw a boundary. Okay, especially with respect to maybe a close friends. Say for example, you're working on a very important, maybe it's an assignment, or it could be a project, or it could be something outside, not related to academics, but you're into your work, and if somebody just comes in, say for example they want to go to a movie or something. Okay, now there are times where you can do that. Okay, now you should also be able to say no. Okay, when it's an urgent work, or when it's not that important. Okay, when going to a movie is not that important. Okay, your time is better spent on that particular project or assignment. Okay, you should you should not be afraid to say no. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying say no to everything. Okay, there are times where you need to chill out with friends. Okay, enjoy, that's okay, but don't be afraid of saying no. Okay, when you need to, because there will be definitely be occasions where there'll be a clash between your social circle and the work at hand, and the work at hand should not suffer. Okay, then you should be able to say no. That's what I'm saying. Okay, you should learn to draw that line between your friends or your closest circle and your work. Okay, try to have a very clear demarcation. Okay, then especially with professors, people skills become very important because they are seniors. Okay, uh, very powerful. uh, if you are in the good books and they have good impression, let me tell you, they can easily get a job for you. Many instances I've seen. I mean, just the contacts they have, especially within the city, they know almost every private college here in the city. Some faculty at the senior level. I'm speaking of at the level of HOD of other colleges or principals of other colleges. I mean, professors in state university are powerful. Just understand. Okay, they have enormous contacts. If they like you, they can get you placed. Okay, I'm not saying a huge pay offer, but at least at the minimum, in a private engineering college, they can get you posted as a faculty. Entry level, okay, some 25 or 30,000, but they can post you. Okay, so try to be on good terms with the professors. Okay, so maybe after semester is completed, just a group of you, okay, your CR and maybe a couple of students, you can just go and wish them. Okay, nothing wrong with it. Okay, just go. I mean, you might think, is it required? It's not required. Really, it's not required. But there's nothing wrong with it. Just go and just thank them, okay? Especially if they have taken a subject for you, just go and thank them. Okay, we have completed, sir, this semester. Okay, new semester is coming. Are you going to come for us for some subject? Okay, or what are the suggestions you have? What are the courses we should focus on? Okay, just take that advice. Okay, make sure, because they'll remember it. Okay, they'll remember, and at some point it's going to help you. Okay, all these are, I mean, this is diplomatic. I understand it's diplomatic, but you should learn to be diplomatic also. Okay, then regarding friends, okay, try to expand your friend circle. Okay, don't, we have this bad habit of trying to be with people who are similar to us. Okay, by similar to us, I mean people from maybe from the same district. Okay, people who speak the same language, or people who are similar to our thinking. Okay, we always have this. I mean, it's common human tendency. It's not restricted to you. Okay, people sort of tend to be together for various reasons. Okay, uh, maybe say for example, if you're living in an abroad city, like say for example in London. Okay, in London, for example, if you uh, the people who uh, live close together will be all Asians. So Indians, Pakistanis, they might fight here, but their Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladesh, Sri Lankans will all be living in they'll be living in common locality. So in some neighborhoods in London, for example, they're very popular. They're Asian neighborhoods. Okay, so the reason is they feel you will be having a sense of protection. Okay, that's the reason why we have a sense of community. Okay, people try to be close to the people they know. Okay, but that's not going to help you. Okay, if you're always going to spend time with the people you know best, or who are people who are similar to you, or similar to you in your interests or tastes, and okay, that's not going to help you. You should expand your social circle. Okay, and what you should be doing is like, you know I'm not saying you should be an extrovert, but try to open up conversation, not completely random strangers. Okay, but try to learn a new thing from others. You just have to. You need not go to partying also. Okay, maybe you can establish friendships. If you're staying in a hostel, for example, you can try to form friendships with some of the other branch students. Don't always hang out with your group and your branch. Okay, try to make friends with students from other branches. There'll be a lot of occasions to make the friendships. Okay, no, you can also try to interact with students from other colleges also if you have opportunities. Okay, I mean, what I'm saying is try to expand your social circle. Okay, contacts are going to be very important. I'll talk about it when I come to networking, but it's going to be absolutely critical. Okay, in today's world, the contacts you have is sometimes will determine the job you get. Okay, so don't try to always stay around with people whom you're comfortable with. You should ask the question, why are you comfortable with the people whom you're trying to spend most of the time with? What is the reason? Why are you trying to spend the time mostly with these people? Are they similar to you? In what way? Okay, so that is the question you have to ask. Are they having the same social status? Usually, people having the same economic status or from the same district. Okay, okay, they like to hang around with each other. Okay, but why you're not liking the person, some other person? Maybe in your same class, you're not liking the person. Why? You should question that. Okay, so what is the basis for that? Is it because are they from a different background, or because maybe you are traditional and they are fashionable? I mean, those are not the reasons not to interact with them. Okay, so try to expand your social circle. Okay, and it's really going to help you context wise. Okay, don't forget this, never underestimate the importance of contacts and networking. Okay, they are important, as important, and maybe even more important than academics. Don't forget this. I'm telling you from experience. I'm really telling you from experience. The people from my school or from college, and when I look back, my school, my college, my engineering, I'm telling you the people who are most successful today are the people who have most contacts. The academically bright and best students today, I'm not saying they're doing dumb jobs. I won't say that. I'm not saying they're doing absolutely dumb jobs. They're doing mediocre jobs or above average, but not absolutely best. The best jobs, when I look back on my classmates, the best jobs are held today by the persons who have the most contacts, most networking skills. Okay, people have a lot of contact. It matters in life. Okay, you will realize it once you step into the industry. Okay, so be good to as many people as possible. try to make friends, new friends. Okay, try to expand your social circle. Okay, then be visible. Okay, in your small limited area, you try to be the best. Okay, whatever you do, try to do, give you 100%. Okay, and I know this is something which people keep saying a lot. You should give you 100%, give you 100%. I mean, what I'm saying is either give 100% or 0%. Okay, don't be in between. Okay, if you're in a class, you don't feel like listening, you're feeling sleepy or your mind is wandering, just don't listen to the class. Okay, don't listen 20%, 30% or 40% and your mind wandering somewhere else. Don't do that. Okay, if you're not interested, don't do it at all. Okay, at least dream well. Okay, at least dream well, you're going to get good dreams. Okay, something you do 100%. Okay, don't do this in between. Okay, give you 100% means when you're doing a job, stay focused on it and do it well. Okay, otherwise don't do it. Okay, these in between efforts are not going to help you. Okay, and in your area you try to be the best. It could be very small area. Okay, and there's a great quote by Martin Luther King. Okay, the famous activists. And by the way, you should listen to his speech. Okay, one of the all-time great speeches, that is "I Have a Dream" speech. If you have time, you can listen to it. One of the most iconic speeches, maybe the best speech in the history of the world. Okay, "I Have a Dream" speech. Okay, so what he has said is like, whatever job you do. Okay, say for example you are a sweeper on the street. Your job is just to sweep the streets. You should be doing your job so well. Okay, nobody cares. I mean, who cares whether the street is swept well or not? You walk on the road so many times. How many times you realize that this street was swept well or not? You don't care it. I mean, nobody cares for it. But what this person is saying is like, if you even if you're a street sweeper, you should do it so well. Okay, that when the angels of the sky are just going by, they'll stop and they should stop and see. I mean, and they should say, okay, here live the person who has done his job well. Okay, that means you should be recognized. I mean, you should do whatever work you do, you should do it so well that people will recognize you. Okay, and for that, it's very important that it should be visible. Okay, okay. So first of all, you don't compare with anyone. Okay, you have your own skill sets. You are good at some things. Okay, don't compare with others. Okay, when it comes to improvement, always compare with yourself. Okay, say for example, there's an LKG student. Let's call him Johnny. Okay, don't compare him with any other person. Okay, when he gets his report card, don't ask what is his rank or how much marks the other person got. Okay, all that matters is whether he has done well compared to the previous exam. That's all it matters. Similarly for you, don't compare with others. Okay, don't at all care what others has achieved. Okay, whether you have improved compared to the last time. That is all that is important. Okay, and if you have done well in the previous and you're not repeating the same mistakes, you're on the right direction. Okay, so first of all, you have to identify your unique strengths. Every person has their unique strengths. You might think I'm not special, I don't have any unique strengths. You're mistaken. You're just not identifying your strengths. Every person is unique in their own way. Okay, so at least if you don't know what are your strengths, okay, as a starting point, what you should do is you should talk to the closest people, maybe your closest friends or relatives or friends. Okay, just talk to them and just ask them to describe you in maybe 2 or 3 words. Okay, the words that immediately come to the mind, like if they think of you, how do they describe you? Just 2 or 3 words or phrases. Okay, that is you. At least that is how the world perceives you. Okay, that is what the opinion people have on you. Now whether it's a reality or not, that's different. Okay, whether you agree with them or not, it's entirely up to you. But that is how the world is perceiving you. Okay, now those qualities can be your strengths, they could be your weaknesses, but at least now you know what the world perceives you. Okay, then you should do the same with you. What are the 3 or 4 qualities that define you? You know yourself very well. Okay, just sit down and just define yourself. Like in exams, you have a question like define something. Similarly, you define yourself. Just 3 to 4 words that immediately come to your mind when you think of yourself. If there is a gap between what others are thinking, those 3 or 4 words which others are thinking, and the 3 or 4 words which you're thinking, that's a problem. There's a difference in how the world is perceiving you and how you perceive yourself. If they are match, you're on the right track. Okay, you should try doing this. Okay, because each one of us is unique. You should know how the world is thinking of you. Don't assume you know how the world is thinking of you. You'll be surprised when you ask this question. At least the people who care for you will tell you the truth. It might be totally be different. Okay, and that will be a great opportunity for you to identify your weaknesses. Okay, and start working on them. Okay, so then you have to work hard. No substitute for hard work. But again, don't work hard dumbly. Okay, don't be so dumb as you just go to a corner and working all day long. Okay, it's important that people recognize you. People should see your work. Okay, work in a red shirt. I mean, what I mean is, don't wear a red shirt, but people should observe you in a crowd. People should observe you. Okay, and it's important that you're visible to others because opportunity is like a wall. Okay, it's just like a wall. It's a huge wall. You are on one side of the wall, and opportunity is on the other side. The wall is very high. Okay, if opportunity has to see you, okay, you should be visible. And how you make yourself visible to opportunity, that depends. Okay, okay, it could be like this, wearing a red shirt. Okay, in a crowd people should identify you. Everybody may be doing the same job. 1,000 people are doing the same job, but you should stand out. It could be in the form of excellence. Okay, maybe you are doing the best job, or it could be by means of self promotion. You are making yourself, you are making people, yourself heard to the people. You can do that also. That is self promotion. You may not be doing the best job. There might be some other person who is doing the better job than you, but he's not being visible. Okay, you should do self promotion. Okay, so don't forget this. Be visible. Whatever work you do it. You work hard, no problem, but also let others know, especially your superiors. Okay, that you're working hard. Don't work in isolation. Okay, no, if nobody is going to observe you, okay, that work is as good as waste. Okay, you're not working for yourself. Okay, there is a the reason why you're working. Okay, and if the people who matter are not observing you, okay, you should make your work visible to them. Okay, and this is self promotion. Yes, should you be ashamed of it? No, absolutely not. Do this self promotion. Okay, so as an example, what can you do? Say for example, you have you got a difficult question. Okay, you're trying to solve a difficult question and you somehow solved it. That's an achievement. That's a small achievement. It's not a great achievement, but it's a small achievement. Then what you can do? You can do similar, say 10 problems of similar difficulty. Okay, write down the solutions and just post it online. Okay, it's very important that you start blogging. Okay, try to, if not a website, at least try to blog on it. You just write an article regarding your experiences on this how you solve these 10 problems. Okay, that could be a small thing, but you're letting the world know. Okay, then I told you have to seek opportunities for growth. Okay, engineering is a 4 years course, but I'm telling you, you don't need 4 years to complete the course. And as you move into third year and fourth year, you will realize it that a subject doesn't need a semester. There'll be times when you'll be excuse me, you'll be forced to complete the reading the subject maybe in 1 or 2 weeks on your own. Okay, not relying on classes and all. You can do that. Okay, don't tell me you can't do it. Many have done it. I have done it. Okay, you don't need a semester to complete a subject. Entire engineering course, if you really ask me, can be done in 6 months. Or if you're academically bright, even 4 months is sufficient. That's enough to do computer science degree. Then what are these 4 years for? Okay, the persons who have framed the 4 years syllabus or 4 years course curriculum didn't have only academics in mind. Okay, so college life, academics is important, but okay, the other skills you have to learn. Okay, that's why you'll be having a lot of free time. You are not just realizing it, but you might be saying we don't have time and all. We have a lot of time. Okay, the way academics is structured, 5 theory courses in 3 labs per semester, you'll be having a lot of free time. Okay, if you're not having the free time, you're not planning it well. That's all. Okay, so the free time you have to make use to develop new contacts or gaining more experiences. It could be in form of travel or some other life skills that are more relevant. Okay, and remember you're in an engineering college, which means there are other engineering branches. Okay, of course there are the three big branches, the mother branches. Okay, civil, electrical, mechanical, from which all other branches have born. Okay, For example, your the computer science never existed. Initially, it was electrical engineering, and then there was a lot of development in the electronics field. So they used to be electrical and electronics. It got changed to electrical and electronics, and then there was a lot of development in the communications technology. So then a new field called ECE was born. Okay, then computers revolution was there. Then computer science got broken off. So everything started from electrical there. Okay, similarly civil, mechanical. These are your mother branches, and you are in engineering college. You should at least. I mean, I'm not saying you learn the subjects. You should learn the subjects of mechanical or civil. That's not what I'm saying. At least you should be knowing what are the subjects, the names of the subjects. How is it going to help you? Is anybody going to ask you in an exam? No, nobody's going to ask you. Yeah, how is it going to help you? Because it's going to give you new ideas. Okay, as you go through the computer science curriculum, you'll be realizing that there are many ideas borrowed from other disciplines. Many ideas. Okay, it's basically cut and copy. In many cases, we literally copy ideas from some other field and paste them here. Okay, for example, you will come in artificial intelligence. For example, you will come across a topic called simulated annealing. What is simulated annealing? It's just annealing. Annealing is a process in mechanical engineering. Excuse me. Okay, so when you want to make some, if you had experience of going to steel plant, for example, here in Vizag, you know how they make steel. Okay, in a furnace, okay, it's heated at a very high temperature, and then it is bent into whatever shape you want. Okay, so once that hot metal, you have to cool it. How you cool it is important. Okay, you can just dip it in cold water. Of course, it will become hard, but internally it will be very unstable. Till that metal will be very weak. Okay, so annealing is a slow process of cooling. You have to cool it very slowly. That hot metal, maybe at 2000 degrees or 1500 degrees centigrade, you have to cool it slowly. That is annealing. So computer scientists have borrowed that idea and they have made a concept called simulated annealing. What is simulated annealing? In artificial intelligence, excuse me, I'm having a bit of cough. So in artificial intelligence, they have made use of the concept. Similarly, entropy, a very popular topic in thermodynamics and civil engineering, chemical engineering, and also mechanical engineering. They have borrowed the topic and they started using in information theory. Okay, so you get your ideas from other branches also. Okay, and because you're an engineering college, you should take advantage of it. And there's one more reason why I'm saying that. Okay, the other reason why I'm saying this is your biggest competition in future is going to come from people from other branches. Of course, the people from computer science are always going to be a competition for you, but in future, the people from other branches will also be a bigger competition for you. Because what's happening here is to do an MTech in, for example, say for example in mechanical, you want to do an MTech. You obviously need a BTech in mechanical because unless you know the subjects in BTech mechanical, what are you going to do MTech on? And that's true for civil or electrical, any other branch. But in computer science, it's the only field where they allow you to do an MTech computer science with any BTech degree. Okay, why are they doing it? Because by and large, computer science is an easy subject, and people are doing that. People from various BTech backgrounds are doing MTech, and now in the other branches, all other branches, people have the common subjects in computers. Every branch has some subjects in computers. I'm not saying C programming, those basic stuff. In their respective fields, for example, computational fluid dynamics, they have the subject in mechanical engineering. Okay. In every field, they have their own computer subjects. So think of the scenario when you want to develop applications for a particular industry. Ultimately, you have to develop solutions for industries, for a telecom industry or of a banking industry. So company have developed solutions. They're people who have domain expertise. That is people who are working in that already working in that field or who are coming from the technical area of that background. For example, in a telecommunications project, ECE students with computer knowledge are going to be much more useful to the companies than a pure CSC or IT guy. That's plain common sense. Okay, tomorrow if they want to have a application developed for IT for a telecom company, if there is a candidate available from a ECE background who knows computers, the basic skills and or data structures and all, they'll prefer them compared to a plain CSC or IT guy who doesn't have the domain knowledge. Okay, that's going to happen with every domain. Say for example, they want to a big pharma company, and pharma companies are employing. They have the requirement for a lot of IT applications. There, they will prefer a chemical engineering student with the required computer background than a plain CST IT student. So in future, I'm telling you, the competition will be from people from other domains. Then you have only two choices: either you should focus on things which non-CS students cannot do. So that could be theoretical computer science, or it could be hardware, or that sort of things, or you get domain knowledge. Okay, and for that you should do a lot of projects in various domains. Okay, it could be banking, healthcare, pharma, telecom, all these areas you have to do, get experience on doing real life projects. Only then you can compete with them. Okay, then regarding opportunities to grow. Okay, so try to do a lot of travel, maybe within the city. Okay, try to get more experiences. That's what I'm saying. If possible, try to join clubs. Okay, this concept of clubs is very popular in IITs. Okay, students will be involving in as many clubs as possible just to get experience and get it in the resumes. Okay, it really adds value in your resume. Okay, so if you have time, you try to just come out of your comfort zone. Okay, what is a comfort zone? People feel comfortable. uh, Say for example, if you're very studious academically, okay, you'll be spending most of the time studying. You will not be getting into any extracurricular activities. Okay, you might think it's grades are all important. Okay, but when it comes to actual real life uh, job interviews, okay, you'll be seen more as a person with a limited potential. Okay, only restrictive studies. Okay, without having another dimension. And it's nice to have another dimension. Okay, it makes your resume that much more attractive. Okay, so come out of your comfort zone. Okay, maybe with your immediate friends you can try to do new things. Okay, not just academics. Okay, try to improve your friend circle and try to get into activities, because this is the only time in life, in college life. I mean, this 4 years college life, we'll be having time. Once you get into master's program, or once you get in job, it's really the end of it. Your life will be different. Okay, this is the only stage in your life where you can really explore yourself. Okay, you can learn new things, and you might think I don't have time, but you have a lot of time. You just have to plan properly. Okay, and really talk to a lot of people. Every person you meet will be having a story to tell, and you can learn from it. Okay, right from the person who sells maybe the ice creams on the road, or pawn shop, auto driver, any person. Try to start a conversation. Okay, you will learn something from every person. So whenever I get into an auto, I always talk to the person. I mean, is this auto your own, or have you rented it? Okay, daily how much liters is the cost of liter the petrol you spend on petrol, and how many customers you serve, how much money you get from them, what is the profit per day. Usually it's around 300 rupees, so that into 30 will be around 9,000 per month. Okay, of which they have to pay the higher charges and all. Okay, so it just gives you an idea. I mean, why do you need that? It's not required for exams. Okay, you're just trying to expand your horizon. Okay, you're just trying to learn new things. Every person will be more than happy to share the stories. Okay, and in that you'll be learning some new thing. Okay, in life it doesn't I mean, to be successful, you don't require to read a lot of books. Okay, just one single line, maybe somewhere in one book, that's sufficient to make a turn in your life. You need not meet a lot of people. Maybe one single person, that one single person will change your life. Okay, you need not watch 100 films or 100 songs. One single song, one single line somewhere will hit you. Okay, that will change you. And that's why you should have as many experiences as possible, meet as many people as possible, somewhere, at some point, a point of time in your life. Okay, one single line in a book or one single person will change you. Okay, and that's why it's important to just try to meet as many people as possible, try to get a perspective on their life. At least you'll be having some interesting stories to tell. Okay, of course, enjoy college life, that's important. Okay, don't restrict yourself to studies. It's nice to bunk colleges once in a while, go out for a movie, nothing wrong with it, but don't overdo it. Okay, because your parents money is at stake here. Okay, so don't overdo it. Once in a while is okay, but don't make it a habit. Okay. Regarding courses and exam preparation, regarding coursework, I'm a strong believer that attendance is absolutely useless. Okay, just look at the minimum attendance. If, for example, your university has a requirement of 75% minimum attendance, just try to maintain, just be on the border around 80%. That's sufficient. Nothing more than that. Don't try to maintain 100% attendance. Okay, if you have the minimum attendance around 75 to 80%, start bunking college. Okay, really, unless the course is very important, unless you like the instructor a lot, unless you have something to learn from that course, then you can attend. Otherwise, once you cross that minimum threshold attendance, you can just start bunking to classes. Okay, that's what I used to do. Okay, I used to do. I used to go very regularly to college, usually close to 100%. Okay, and in the last 1 month, I used to just bunk off totally. And we usually have mid exams also, second midterm in that time. Okay, there'll be two mid exams for us way back in our days. I used to write the first mid way back. And that second mid exam used to be in the last 1 month. I used to bunk that also. Classes and mid exam. So one full month I used to get. And I used to prepare for the semester exams. That's it. Okay. I'm not saying you do that, but there's no point because once you come to the college, there'll be a lot of time wastage. It's not that you'll be always be studying here. Okay, there'll be classes, you have to wait for the professor, you will be chit chatting with your friends, there'll be a lot of time wasted. Okay, and if that time you feel will be better spent in preparing in your room, in your hostel or home, that's much better. Okay, and also people who are staying far, there'll be time involved in traveling and all. Okay, at least that was the case with us. Okay, so don't waste time if you have sufficient attendance. Okay, then regarding exam preparation, I mean, uh, this is something that maybe your seniors can tell you, or you'll figure out on your own. Okay, so uh, try to be attentive in class. Okay, usually professors will be dropping a lot of hints. Okay, if you listen carefully, you can almost expect you can almost second guess the questions they're going to ask in the exams. Okay, usually some hint will be there. They won't say it will come on exam, but you can get the hint. They will be repeating 1 or 2 times, even if you don't ask it. Okay, they say it's a very important concept from a practical perspective. Okay, you can just from the tone of the lecture you can feel what topic is important. Okay, you should also go to the professor before exams, maybe one week or 10 days before, and just try to get a mind of him. Okay, he won't tell you what are the exams, what the questions is going to ask on the exam. Nobody's going to do that. Okay, but in the last 1 week or 10 days, if you go, you can get his mind. And usually because the questions will be fresh in his mind, because he's prepared the question paper, usually he'll be giving some hints. Okay, again he won't be saying these are the questions you should prepare, but if you're smart enough you can catch what he's saying. Okay, so just 1 week before, try to meet him and just ask him what are the topics to focus on, and just open up a conversation. The rest they will take care of. Okay, and also when you're writing exams, you should always think of how the person who's valuing, especially the semester exams, how the person who's valuing your paper is going to think. And this is something the students don't do at all. Okay, they just keep writing whatever they know they write. Okay, that's not correct. Okay, put yourself into the shoes of the person who is valuing a paper. So what is the person's mindset while valuing the paper? Okay, usually I think per day they'll be valuing around 150 papers. Okay, if you calculate on an average, they'll be having uh, around say 15 to 20 seconds, not more than that, to look at your question, to your answer. Your 7 marks question which you're writing, maybe 10 to 20 seconds they'll be looking at, not more than that, on an average. They won't be reading word by word. Okay, then you have to understand the psychology of the valuer. In the 10 to 15 seconds, what is he going to look at? Okay, and that's why it's important you put yourself in the shoes of the valuer. Okay, I think this I have told in the very first, when I was taking the CEO course, maybe online class, very first day I told you this course is not that important, and you should ask yourself this question for every subject: is this course important? With the ultimate goal of your career in mind, you have a particular area in mind you want to get into. In relation to that, is this course important? You should be asking this question for all the 5 theory and the 3 lab courses you do per semester, because all courses are not equally important. There will be some courses that are important, absolutely critical. There's some courses that are not at all important for your area which you're interested in. You should identify those areas. Okay. For example, during the pandemic, in the data structures theory course, I think uh, in the 70% syllabus, some topics were gone, like graph data structure. Don't leave them. Okay. That's for the exam. Okay. It was not there for exam. Okay. But data structure is such an important subject. Is there maybe the single most important subject that will decide your career? If you want to get into software and IT related jobs, that is the single most subject that will determine the success of your job. Okay, all the top job postings which you see in newspapers, you see IT students have get back this 1 crore or 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs job offers. So those job offers, okay, like Google, Microsoft, the big companies, in their interviews and then in the coding and in the technical rounds, the subject they focus mostly on is data structures. If you do well on data structures, and there's one more course coming up in your later semesters, the course in algorithms. If you are strong in data structures and algorithms, 90% of your technical round and coding round is done. Okay, that is how much important this course is. Okay, so you should identify what are the most important courses and focus on it. Don't neglect data structures and algorithms. Okay, absolutely critical. Okay, there's some standard textbooks like CLRS. Okay, you can follow them. Okay, but your notes are also going to help you. Okay, so don't throw away your notes. Okay, in future also when you are appearing for competitive exams and all, you'll be again referring back to these notes. So preserve all your notes. Okay, and maybe some long time back, on Quora, I was active on Quora. In those days I just wrote a couple of articles. If you want, you can go through this regarding how to, I mean, regarding the university, how to uh, write the exams and all, way back. I don't know whether they are relevant today or not, but if you have time, you can read them. Okay, then you have to stay close to the industry demands. Okay, so what the industry requirements are and what is taught in the university. Usually, there will be a bit of disconnect because it's a state university. In institutes like IITs and all, that will be very dynamic. Okay, the syllabus gets updated very frequently. Okay, they'll be in touch with the industry. When industry people visit them, and they'll be taking subjects also. Okay, so they know what is the contemporary requirement, what are the contemporary skills, and they'll be updating their syllabus and all. In a state university, that's not the case. Usually there'll be a gap of around 1 to 2 months between what is the latest industry skills required and what is taught in the university. And even if it is included, usually it will be more theory based rather than a practical hands-on knowledge. Okay, in this scenario, what we should be doing, you should be staying close to the industry. Now that could be in the form of doing internships, or real life projects. Okay, or having some contacts in the industry. Some way you should be staying close to the industry. Okay, because as I told you, this industry is very dynamic. The technologies keep changing very fast. Okay, for example, 5 years back, whatever was the skills is no more. I can literally see the skills that were in demand 5 years back today are no more. Okay, it happens always in IT industry. Okay, by the time you go to the job market, it's more than 2 years from now. The skills, the technologies, new technologies will be coming up, and you have to keep identifying them. Your university syllabus will not teach them. You're on your own. Okay, so keep an eye on the latest job postings. Always have a habit of referring the job section of newspapers. Just see the IT related job section. You can also search online and try to see what are the various skill sets that the companies are asking for. Okay, then have a rough idea direction you want to do. Right now, areas like machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud computing is a very big thing. Okay, so I always believe that there are 5 skills. I think this was a slide I prepared way back for your MSc students. Okay, MSc students, when they were close to uh, placements and all, they just asked me what are the skills they should develop, and I just prepared a presentation. And this slide was from that time. Okay, but still relevant. Okay, so I believe every computer student should know 5 skills. Okay, one is programming knowledge language. I mean, besides C. Okay, C is a good language, but what I mean is object-oriented programming language. It could be Java, it could be Python. Okay, so at least one programming language you should know. Then one operating system, and Windows doesn't count. Okay, Windows is more a user-friendly, customer-friendly sort of interface. That's not what I mean. I mean Unix type, Unix or Linux. Okay, so one operating systems besides Windows you should know. Then you should know one database, very important. Okay, it could be Oracle, it could be MySQL, or it could be PostgreSQL. Okay, lot of databases. Okay, this is a mistake your seniors, your immediate seniors, those who are in the third year have done. Okay, in the pandemic, during the pandemic, they had the entire course on database online, both theory and lab. Okay, so lab they didn't do online. Okay, so they didn't get the opportunity to work on an actual database like Oracle. Had they been in the university, they would have really worked on the database, but online they didn't. And today, none of them know how to work on a database, a real life database like Oracle or not. And you, as IT students, will be developing applications. That is your core skill. You can't develop an application backend without database. I don't know what they're going to do. And you have to learn on your own. Okay. So one database, it could be any database. Okay. Though they teach you Oracle as per syllabus, but anything is okay. Okay, MySQL or PostgreSQL, anything is fine. Then you should know one OLAP tool. I mean, OLAP stands for Online Analytical Processing. I would not say it's a very hard skill these days. Okay, maybe 5 to 10 years back, it's an important skill. Right now, I would not say it is a real requirement because most of the data libraries in Python language, okay, like NumPy, Scikit-learn, Pandas, and all. I mean, they cover up for this. Okay, so it's not really a hard requirement, but it's good if you have it. Okay, so OLAP tools like Cognos, MicroStrategy is there. Informatica was a big thing some years back. I don't know whether Informatica is still popular or not, but this you can keep it as a backup. Not that important compared to other four. Okay, but important. Okay, then cloud computing. Cloud computing is absolutely critical today. Okay, you should know at least one cloud platform. It could be Amazon Web Services. It could be Azure. It could be Google. Okay, I mean, one of those three you should know. Google Cloud is not that popular. Okay, but at least one out of Amazon Web Services and Azure. One of them you should be knowing. Okay, so these are the five skills you should be focusing on. Okay, then regarding professors, I told you they can place you. Okay, they can place you. If they like you, they can get you a job. Okay, so be good to them. Okay, so go to their room, ask questions. Okay, if you're interested in research, you can find out what areas they're working on and see if you can get a project on them. Okay, and in abroad, universities abroad, you can't meet your professors as and when you like. You can't just walk into the room. There's something called office hours. Okay, once they teach in the class, the only time you can meet them is something called a office hours. There'll be stipulated time where you can meet them. So and so day, so and so time. You just can't walk into your professor's room. Here it's not like that. Okay, in the Indian system, you can always at any point of time you can meet your professor. So take advantage of that. Okay, and of course it depends on the combination of the subject and the professor. Okay, some combination you like. Maybe you like the subject, but you don't like the professor. You don't like the subject, maybe you like the professor. You like both or you don't like both. Four combinations. Okay, if there's a combination where you like both the subject and the professor, you should build rapport. Okay, build rapport. Okay, especially if you're trying to do an MS abroad, you need recommendation letters. Okay, more than grades in foreign universities, they rely on recommendation letters from your professors. You need at least two or three recommendation letters. So by the time you go to the final year, you should be having at least two to three professors who can write good recommendation letters. Okay, so be nice to the professors. Try to build rapport with them. Okay, don't use cell phones in the classroom. Okay, they don't like it. Okay, Eh, then general other tips. Okay, just want to share with you. Don't get obsessed with perfection. Usually we make this mistake. Okay, say for example, there's a job that requires to be done, and you have completed 95%, and that 5% left you can do. It's only for perfection. Okay, don't try to do that. Okay, don't try to uh, waste your time on that 5% perfection. It's not required. Okay, you can just finish the job with the 95%. Okay, you will realize it when you're assigned a work by a professor or someone. Okay, it's better to push the work. Just submit that work. Maybe it's an assignment. It could be project. Okay, if it is almost done, 90 to 95% done, just push it. Okay, don't waste your time because that 5% incremental to go from 95 to 100% will take a lot of time. Getting to the 90% work done, 95% work done is easy. Maybe it'll take say 2 to 3 days. To go from the 95 to 100% will take 2 more days just for the 5%. Don't waste like that. Okay, don't be a perfectionist. Don't be a perfectionist. Okay, just try to submit it. Okay, then ethics. Okay, many times I've spoken about it. I won't repeat it. Okay, that's a personal call you have to take. Okay, then accept in life that you'll be having bad days. You're always going to have bad days. Life is not like a bed of roses. It's not like you're always having to have a blast good days. It's not going to happen. There will be bad days. Okay, days when you'll be alone, days will be sad, you'll be depressed, you'll be crying alone in your room, nobody to console you. Those days will be there. Okay. It's just that you move on. Okay. One day you cry, next day you just pick yourself and move on. Okay, that is life. Okay. So don't feel that the world is against you. Okay, world has its own headaches. Okay, so don't blame the world. Okay, your problems are nothing. Okay, there are bigger problems in the world. Okay, for example, I know my fellow scholars. One of my PhD scholars is working who travels all the way from I think it's around 200 to 300 kilometers. Every day she does up and down. It's so far. You don't even believe it. Okay, they are doing it somewhere close to Arku or somewhere, Escort or something. They do up and down with a small kid. Okay, less than 1 year old, leaving that kid at home with her parents. Okay, every day starts early morning 5 or 6 o'clock. Okay, comes to Vizag, totally tired up, takes up classes, and then again in the evening sometimes doesn't have an opportunity to go early. 5 o'clock, six or 6 o'clock, maybe she'll go and maybe she'll reach there at 9 o'clock. Okay, no time to do anything. Okay, and then she has to allow time to her kid. Okay, where is the time to prepare for the subjects or any other competitive exams she wants? I mean, there are people with what I'm saying is there are people with a lot more troubles than you. Okay, don't think the world is against you. You're the only ones who are having trouble. Okay, there's so many people with bigger troubles than you. Okay, so have a perspective on that. Okay, then waking up early is very important. Okay, just make a habit of it. Okay, sometimes it will be very difficult for you to wake up, especially if you don't have that habit of waking early. But that is a time usually it will be very calm and peaceful. You can do a lot of uh, efficient work. Okay, that's my personal experience. Okay, so try to wake up early initially as a starting point. If you want to make it a habit, just wake up, don't study. Okay, you can do whatever you like. If you want to play games, you can play, or if you want to watch YouTube videos, you can do something you like to do. But at least just try waking up 5 o'clock, 5:30, so sometime, just wake up. Okay, initially do whatever you want. Okay, but just try to wake up, and then maybe after 1 month or 2 months, once you get used to that, then you can start reading. Okay, it's just a suggestion. Sometimes people prefer working late into night. Okay, sometimes on Canvas I see people logged in on Canvas 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock early morning. I don't know. People have their own time clocks, body clocks. Okay, but my suggestion is it's very efficient because your mind is fresh in the morning. Okay, late night usually you're exhausted. You feel you're working, but usually you're not working at a peak efficiency. Early morning you're fresh and you're working at a peak efficiency. Okay, then in college you should be responsible. Okay, usually this is the first time you're staying away from home in hostel. There'll be a lot of freedom, uh, but with freedom you should be having responsibility also. Okay, there'll be less supervision. There are no parents to monitor you. Okay, sometimes you have a lot more freedom. Be responsible. Okay, then some small general tips. Okay, whenever you're watching videos, because these days you watch a lot of videos. Okay, What I suggest is you always watch videos at twice the speed. In YouTube, there is an option where you can speed up the playback speed. Okay, try watching it twice the speed. You will understand it. Okay, especially video lectures recording to your subjects. If you want to listen to some recorded video lectures, because a video which takes 2 hours time, you can complete watching in 1 hour time. You initially you will find it difficult to listen it to twice the speed, but I always listen to twice the speed because it saves half the time. And when you keep listening to it, you'll get used to it. Okay, both English or local language. Okay, you will understand it over a period of time. It's not that difficult. It will save you a lot of time. Okay, then it's my experience that 90% of the time, the thing you fear will not happen. Usually, there will be a lot of things where we get stressed up. Okay, a lot of will be really tense. When you'll be afraid what will happen. Most of the times, the thing which you fear will not happen. Okay, at least you be prepared for the worst. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, so say something, you have done some mistake in college. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? They'll kick you out of college. Okay, what else they will do? They're not going to hang you. They're not going to arrest you. No, what is the worst that can happen? They'll kick you out of college. Okay, there are lot more things you can do. Okay, that's not the end of life. Okay, this is not a great MIT or Stanford. Okay, where you should feel bad if you get kicked out. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? You'll go back to your hometown. You'll start a new life. Okay, now, yes, it's a difficult thing. Okay, in front of your families and everything, I know. Okay, but that's the worst that can happen. Okay, once you prepare that is the worst that can happen. Okay, nothing can beat it. What else can happen if you're already prepared for the worst? Okay, and then you try to start improving on it. Okay, then you try to, if this is the worst that can happen, how can I make it better? Usually you will find that 90% of the cases, whatever you fear the worst, that will not happen. Things will be much better. Okay, so don't get stressed up on small things. Okay, and mistakes do happen, we learn from it. Okay, and listen to your heart. Sometimes your heart says something, your mind says something. There are times when you have to listen to your mind. Okay, there are times when you have to listen to your heart. Okay, this is a very good book by Paulo Coelho, a Brazilian author. If you have time, you can read it. It's a book titled Alchemist. It's regarding this, listen to your heart. Okay, usually you'll be having that inner voice. Okay, uh, it's up to you whether you listen to it. Sometimes we get influenced by what other people say. We'll be getting advice from a lot of other people. Sometimes we get influenced by it, but sometimes there's also a voice within you that tells you to do something else. Okay, then usually most of the times, if you listen to your heart, it works. Okay, now there'll be times when you'll be wrong. Okay, it's just a percentage thing. Maybe out of 10 decisions you make, 7 times, if you're right, that's more than sufficient. Okay, just go for it. Okay, then regarding your computer skills, you try to back up every information. Okay, sometimes things go wrong, you lose a lot of data. Okay, so backup. You can use the services like Dropbox. At least some limit there. I think up to 2 GB they have free service. So you can use the services like Dropbox. Okay, very important to backup. Okay, and also organizing information to folders. You'll be having a lot of data on your computers. The way you organize this is very important. Okay, because later when you want to retrieve it, maybe 1 year from now, if you want to retrieve the data, it'll be very difficult if you don't name your folders and files properly. Okay, so make it a habit to name them properly. Sleep well, very important. At least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Okay, as I told you, I see people on Canvas app, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I don't know what people are doing. Uh, It's not such an important subject. I don't know. People are finding it so interesting to spend time at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock on the CEO web page on Canvas. I don't know. Uh, anyway, uh, sleep is important. Okay, don't go into late nights. Okay, your body clock uh, is actually tailored to work at a particular schedule. Okay, don't wake up so late at night. Okay, maybe 11 o'clock or 11:30, 12 is okay, but at least minimum 6 to 7 hours sleep is minimum. Okay, if you don't have sufficient sleep, your day will not start well. You might feel you have achieved something, but the next day your entire day will be very drowsy and you will not be performing at a peak efficiency. Okay, so don't stay so late out of net. Okay, okay. Right now, I know it is 1 o'clock in the night, so I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. Okay, but I don't want to keep it pending. I'm just finishing off this recording. Okay, then keep social media in check. Okay, you have this. Usually, we have this habit of checking WhatsApp messages and all very frequently. Okay, don't do that. Okay, you usually will not get most important messages. Okay, most of it's only uh, entertainment purposes. Okay, have a fixed schedule, maybe 1 hour every 1 hour, 2 hours. You can check out messages. Don't waste so much time on YouTube videos and Instagram, and they're not really going to add value. Okay, once in a while it's okay to just to chill yourself, but it's not going to add much value. Okay, don't spend hours on social media. Okay, then create your own personal website. At least you try to reserve your domain, your name.com. At least that you should be having. Okay, someday in future is going to help you. Okay, then I keep telling that dates are not that important, so you should be switching your attention to other important tasks. So what are they? You should be getting real world experience. Now that could be in form of internships, like working for a summer project in some company, or you can work on some real life projects. Okay, uh, on real data sets. Okay, you can do that. You can get some research experience. Okay, try to be in touch with the professor who's doing some good research projects and see if you can accommodate you in their project. Okay, contributing to open source is a great way. Okay, if you're really getting into IT sector jobs, if you have a lot of contributions in the open source, I mean, like for example on GitHub. Okay, or on Stack Overflow, if you answer a lot of doubts on Stack Overflow. Okay, it's a very on your resume it looks very good, especially GitHub contributions. Okay, we have a lot of projects on GitHub. Okay, it looks really good on your resume. Okay, and try to be on LinkedIn. Okay, recruiters these days are checking your, maybe you're a student, they will not check you, but once you get in 1 year into a job, okay, these professional networks matter a lot. Okay, so try to be on LinkedIn also. Okay, as I already told you, try to create your own website where you can provide links to all your projects. Okay, so these days they're asking, recruiters are asking soft copies of the resumes, okay, instead of hard copies. And there in the soft copies they're asking for clickable links. Okay, links where you can click and they'll be taking you to the respective pages. Okay, so for example you have a web page, they'll be asking links. Okay, so the in that sort of a soft copy resume, these links will be very important. Okay, your GitHub and Stack Overflow, all this, they'll be adding a lot of value. Okay, and try starting a blog. A blog is nothing but a, I mean, you should have heard about it. Okay, blog is like where you write. It's like a diary, but your professional work. All your, say for example, you're working on some course, you like some topic, you can just blog about it, your experiences on it. Okay, and over a period of time, maybe in 1 year, you have some 20 to 30 posts. Okay, you can also provide a link to that in your resume. Okay, a very good, it's a very good addition to your resume. Okay, blogging. Okay, and finally, networking. I have purposely made it the last slide because if there's any one thing, if there's only one thing you remember in this entire presentation, you forget everything. If there's only one thing you remember, this is what you should remember. If you are taking any one single point from this presentation, this should be the point you should be taking home. Networking is the most important thing. Never underestimate the importance of networking. Okay, what is networking? If there's a work to be done, if you can pick up a call, if you can pick up a phone, call to the person, get the work done without you physically going there, that is networking. That is the level of contacts you should be having. And by contacts, I don't mean political contacts. Okay, these contacts could be your friends, it could be your seniors, or faculty, professors, your contacts from other branches. Okay, your well wishers, your contacts will really determine your success. I know it's unfair. Okay, that's not how it should be, but that's the sad reality. That's how it is. Okay, in companies, once you join a company, I told you, people usually will be leaving the jobs after 3 to 4 years because they get a better offer somewhere. Most of the cases, okay, when there's a new job posting in the company, internally they circulate it first of all. Okay, the HR of their company usually will first post it internally, and people will be referring their friends. All this is before the application is posted on the web for the outside world. First, it will be circulated internally, and in some companies they even pay some amount if they if the employee recommends a good candidate. Okay, because people in the private sector, people rely on their employees. Okay, of course that employee is monitored later. If you're not doing well, okay, you might be penalized, but that's a different story. But usually the new job openings in the company will be first known to the internally to the employees. There your contacts matter. Okay, so always stay in touch with your, especially with your college students. Okay, in the class, in your class, don't always restrict yourself in one small group. Okay, be in touch with everyone, also with other section students, your seniors. Okay, your contacts will matter a lot in once you get in the industry. Maybe for this first job it will not go to matter because everybody is a student. Okay, there may be your performance in the interview, maybe your recommendation by a professor, that might matter. But once you get into the industry, your contacts will matter. Okay, so be nice to everyone, be nice to all your classmates. You never know who's going to be in which position, and don't think that the academically better student will be the person to achieve the highest. That's not going to happen. Take my word, it's not going to happen. It's almost an exception, but that's not the norm. Usually, it doesn't happen. Okay, so be good to all the persons you come across in your life, especially in your friend circle, in your college circle, also students of the other branches. Okay, try to develop as many contacts as possible. They'll be helping you in your once you get in the industry when you want to switch jobs, and it's very common that you switch jobs. Okay, there they'll be helping you a lot. Okay, so that is what I wanted to share with you. Okay, if you have any specific doubts, you can contact me. You know how to contact me on my email, preferably email, but you can also WhatsApp me or call personally when we meet. You can ask any doubts you have. Okay, it's already 1:30 at night, so I'm just trying to close it. Okay, any doubts, please contact me. Okay, thank you.